Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. And there was, I'm sure you're familiar with, there were some interesting vaccination or anti-vaccination stories this past week. And I'd love to get your thoughts on these two issues. The first one, of course, is the physician from the Cleveland Clinic. I believe his name is Dr. Daniel Neides. I've heard of his name before. And he did this op-ed in the local newspaper up there in Cleveland. And he questioned whether vaccines have contributed to the rise in neurological diseases like autism and ADHD. He argued that the ingredients in them are harmful to newborns. He suggested spreading out and delaying the shots in children to reduce exposure to chemicals that he claimed was toxic. Now, this caused a Twitter storm. And I was curious, what are your thoughts on a physician writing an op-ed like this, and B, some people have called for the Cleveland Clinic to take action. What do you think?
It's really unfortunate that the anti-vaccine movement has made such inroads that you have a physician at one of the most prestigious medical centers in the world basically voicing the same things that Jenny McCarthy, Jim Carrey, RFK Jr., the whole anti-vaccine movement that have erroneously linked many different conditions to vaccines. It's to me, the level of evasion for a physician to say that is mind-boggling, because a physician has no excuse for not realizing the fact that we don't have people dying of polio, that measles has been beaten back from the Americas, that we have eradicated smallpox from the planet, that childhood is a happy time now where your children are not in the hospital, where your friends aren't dying from preventable diseases. That's something the general public should know, but for a physician who studied it in much more detail than the general public, it's really inexcusable. And I think, to me, it just shows how much disrespect for the scientific method, for what Louis Pasteur did, exists in this world. And I really think it's this worship of the primitive, or a return to the primitive, that you're seeing with the anti-vaccine movement making inroads even in the Cleveland Clinic. Yeah. And as for what the Cleveland Clinic should do with him, I don't know. When they've already set up an institution for that kind of type, for alternative medicine or complementary medicine, and I think some of that is a mixed bag. Sometimes you might find something that may have some benefit in those types of settings, like acupuncture has been shown in a few different settings to have some benefit, but you also attract a certain type of practitioner that eschews modern medicine and does not necessarily follow the scientific method. And I'm not sure, because I know there's such a big demand for those types of services in the United States, and Cleveland Clinic basically, I would think, saw that as an opportunity to expand their patient base by developing an institution. So I'm not sure what they'll do to him or what should be done to him, but it's clearly not becoming of a physician and not becoming of the Cleveland Clinic to employ one that can speak this freely about his irrationality.
Yeah, and apparently this isn't the first time he's written about this either. Is he or his op-ed, how much damage does something like this really do?
It's hard to calculate, because it does, there are people that are on the fence, or these general public people read these and they say, this is a Cleveland Clinic doctor saying this. This isn't some quack.
Yeah.
This isn't some alternative. This is a guy with Cleveland Clinic after his name. So I think in that sense, it's very damaging. Anytime people try and undermine, scientific fact, I think it's damaging, and it has repercussions that you can't well estimate. But when it comes from someone with the Cleveland Clinic after the name, I think it is a scary prospect that the anti-vaccine movement has basically has an in at the Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, it's pretty shameful, I think. The second issue that happened, and it appears that President-elect Donald Trump may have offered Robert F. Kennedy Jr., somebody you just mentioned a few moments ago, a position in a vaccine safety commission. Now, this RFK Jr. did say he was offered this, but the Trump administration did not say they offered him anything. So there's a little conflict of stories there. But RFK Jr., for my audience that's not familiar, what is it about his vaccine stance? Can you summarize what his stance is, and why would he be considered for a position like this?
I would say it's the land of opposites to have RFK Jr. even talking about vaccines. Yeah. So the part of the vaccine debate that RFK Jr. has really been influential in is regarding the preservative called thimerosal, right, which is a mercury-based preservative that got basically packaged together with a bad type of mercury, and people just through kind of the people basically harassed the pharmaceutical companies to remove thimerosal from some of their vaccines without any data. And actually the data shows the exact opposite, that it was safe. And it was because they were confusing two types of mercury on purpose. And what happened was RFK Jr., because of his last name and the Kennedy mystique, got an op-ed got a major article in the Rolling Stone talking about that, Rolling Stone magazine talking about this, was on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart spouting all of this. Yeah. And he became basically a poster boy for thimerosal and the toxins in our vaccines. And he actually, I think this is the most disgusting thing he said, was that he compared what vaccines have done to the Holocaust.
Wow.
When vaccines have saved hundreds of millions of lives, it's the exact opposite. So to me, this is the level of intellectual dishonesty and evasion. It's incalculable, and this is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about the return of the primitive and the worship of the primitive and the worship of pestilence and death. And that's what I don't mince words about what RFK Jr. represents here, and the fact that the president-elect is even talking to someone I wouldn't even associate with someone like RFK Jr. That really just underscores how he is just pandering to the anti-vaccine movement, as he has been since this campaign began, meeting with the people who made the documentary Vaxxed, endorsing some of Andrew Wakefield's theories, and even in the debates he brought this up. And he's tweeted about it. So he really is courting the anti-vaccine movement, which is not something that bodes well in general for the country and the world.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And Mr. Trump he's been on this thought process for vaccines long before his election, before the election and all that. So it's nothing new. I was honestly a little surprised that he did do this meeting, and this is even being considered, because Trump's a wild card. You don't know what you're going to get, and I guess he really kind of stuck to his anti-vaccine mode in this particular topic. Okay, well, I want to thank you, Dr. Amesh Adalja, for your time and expertise, sir. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Okay,